Hello everyone and welcome to Magic Gathering Strat. I'm Binkabi and this will be a Modern Masters draft. I just have to say that I'm recording my voice separately because I had some malfunction with my USB ports on the computer, and when I tried to fix that I disconnected the headset and then I talked for 2 videos without having it plugged in, so yeah. Easy pick in this first pack, it's Elishnorn, no real competition. There is a lot of good cards though, like a Bounce Land, Burst Lightning, Crusher, Manta. I mean, there's a lot of good cards here. Picking Elishnorn, hoping to go green if I can choose which color to be. Green has the fixing, green has the ramp, green has the tools to buy time, and it also got the token generators, which happens to be very good with Elishnorn. So yeah. Second pack is empty on white cards. The good cards are like the land. The 2 red cards are pretty good. The Grim Affliction. Maybe the repeal. So it's all valid choices. Could take the land just because it's good and we want to be green, and it's easier to splash black if we have that. The red cards are only good in heavy red, so not too exciting. So I'm leaning towards the Grim Affliction here. For the record, I finished 5-3 in Utrecht. Pretty good. Pretty sad that I lost the 8th round. I had more than lethal on board and 2 burn spells in hand, and he drew a Muldrifter from the top, which cascaded into a Mortopod and Pillar of the Sleepless that he could cast for exact mana and stabilize the board, and then he drew something else and I lost. Happens sometimes, pretty annoying, but that's Magic. Would have been sweet to reach day 2, but oh well. Third pack, once again, empty on white cards. It's only the equipment guy, and he's okay, but it doesn't look like we're going that way. The blue cards are solid. Edda Snipe is actually really good. I like him. Bone Splints are also good. Tribal Flames are also good, but I'm gonna go with the Rampant Growth. If it goes well with the cards I have, I want to ramp up. I want to fix my mana. I mean, going more than 2 colors in this format is not hard at all. So, since you already have a powerful card, why not try to pick up more, right? So the plan is to try to go into base green if possible, and splash other colors along the way. I wouldn't be sad if I'm white as a base too, like green-white, splashing black and something else maybe. Yeah, due to Elishnorn being double white. So once again, a lot of good red cards. Some decent blue cards as well, and another Rampant Growth, but it's hard to pass up the Sunlands. It's cheap removal, it's efficient, it takes care of a lot of things that are annoying, and if we could just be one primary color, I would choose white, since we have Elishnorn, which is one of the most powerful cards you can have. So it's hard to turn that down. It's usually something like kill a bunch of your guys, swing in for a very large amount of damage, and yeah, even if they kill it after that, it's not a huge deal. It's annoying for sure, but yeah. So this pack is also very interesting. We have, once again, no white cards, but we have a Sunforger, a Spider, and a Vengeful Rebirth. The Rebirth is by far the best card, and we should be able to splash it. And I decided against the Spider because if we're gonna be heavy green so that we can play green 2-drops, we want to have Nest Invaders and stuff at that slot and not the Spiders. Basically, if we're gonna go base green, I want to have so many powerful cards that a 2-2 for 2 is not enough to make the deck. So that's why I decided to go with the Rebirth. It's very powerful. We could easily like kill someone with it or kill their best creature and get back our best card from the graveyard. Pretty good. Wouldn't want too many because they're kind of clunky, but one is certainly enough. Here we get a gift. We have a almost dead pack. The Fiery Fall is the only card that actually makes sense to take otherwise, but a late bounce land in what we hope to be our primary color and one of our splash colors is excellent. It's hard to say that we will be green at this point, but we will try to at least. So getting a bounce land 6th is really good, and even though they're not as good here as they were in the original format, it's still pretty good. Here we have a fantastic pack. We have the blue Graft guy, who is fantastic. Wrecking Ball, one of the best spells you can cast. A Fiery Fall and a Green Affliction. So we have our pick of removals. I decided to go with the Wrecking Ball because of its diversity. And since we're already trying to splash both red and black, why not, right? Here we get a Manta in an always anyways dead pack, so pretty good. And here we get like an what is this, 9th pick Carnarium. We also have Evolving Wilds and another Manta, and I would love to take all three and Crusher, I guess, but it's better to have the fixing before you take the Mantas than have the Mantas and try to make the fixing work. So Carnarium, Splash, Wrecking Ball by itself. It also helps with our other splashes, so Carnarium it is. We also get back the Rot Farm, and once again Firefall is nice and it fixes our mana, but we're looking to play red as a splash color, and then we can't have a splash fixer. Easy Tribal Flames, we're looking to be several colors, so it's likely to be a pretty good spell for us. Here we get a pack full of good cards. We'll take the Land Cycler. Mana is key if you're gonna go more than 2 colors, so I'm not unhappy to pick that up. Here we get basically nothing. The only card I don't want to play against is the Mind Rot, so I'll take that. Inner Infection could be something that we will end up playing. If we get some more Grim Affliction, is pretty good. And a poor Thallid, it's basically unplayable. You shouldn't be that harsh, but it's not a very good card. You should not look to play it. Here we have a pretty good pack, but unexcitingly we'll take the rare. Banefire is really good. It can't be countered or messed with in any way, and we're looking to have a lot of mana, so it's not hard to imagine us getting in a few points and then just burn them out for 10 damage or something. So Banefire it is. This is basically a brick. The whole pack is pretty bad. There is a few good blue cards. The bad green Overrun. Other than that, there is nothing. So the cards I'm looking at is Scare the Seeds and Sickle Slicer, and I decided to go with the Slicer, even though I think Scare the Seeds would be better in the deck. We're looking to have Skywitch Mantas at that mana cost, and if we don't have that many creatures prior to that, Scare the Seeds goes down a lot. And having a colorless creature is actually something that is pretty high value in this deck, because we're going to be so many colors. Here we get another tough pick. We have a Guild Mage, very powerful, Evolving Wilds, Nameless Inversion, Skywitch Manta, and the Wayfarer's Bauble. All of those are solid picks and solid additions to the deck. I'm leaning towards the Guild Mage just because it's so good, and we're looking to be green and white as our primary colors, but once again the cards I want at that slot is Nest Invaders and stuff, so I decide against it. I also decide against the Skywitch Manta on the strength of the mana fixers. It's just, I think we can wield the Manta because no one else should be in this strategy, and if we can't wield it, well, if they get all the Mantas and we get all the fixing, I think we will be fine anyway. So here we get a tough pick between the Burst Lightning, the Rot Farm, and the Shadow Mage. Shadow Mage is not really an option right now because we're not blue. We don't have blue fixing and we don't have blue cards, so for me it's between the land and the burst lightning. And I decided to go with the burst lightning because we're looking more and more red and it's a good early play. Here we get Chancery if we want to go into blue. Alloy Mirror, which I don't really like, it's slow and vulnerable. So it's Rampant Growth for Sunlands for me, and once again the removal gets the nod for me. Here we have a dead pack basically. We could take Signing Blood, which is good, but double black. We have a Kami of Ancient Law, which I don't really want to take, Scuttling Death. So ultimately I decided to go with the Fairy Mechanist. We already have a couple of artifacts and we're looking to pick up more, and we should not have a problem playing blue either, so that's my pick. I think it's reasonable. Here we have a land, the Matka Rioters, and a Raised Alarm, which is all fine. I'm very happy to pick up the green-white bounce land because we will need that, so no competition there. It's also something that should be noted that the Rioters demands domain, not sunburst, so that's something we should consider. Here I take another Manta, they're very good. Another easy pick, Evolving Wilds versus nothing. Here we have a dead pack, so it's basically if we want a sideboard card, or which one do we want, Gutshot or the Grasp, and we don't have a disenchant yet, so as expected, the Manta Wield, we will be happy to snag that up. And overall I'm pretty pleased with our position here. We get a sideward Shrivel for whatever we want that for. Death Denied is the card I would want to play, but it's double black, so Changeling it is. If we can cast it, we should be able to pump it at least once, and that makes it okay. I'm moving the mana fixing to the sideboard slot so I can have more room to figure out how the deck should be. So we're looking pretty good. We have a decent amount of fixing, 4 bounce lands in 2 packs, plus an Evolving Wilds is pretty good. We also have Wayfarer's Bauble, a Rampant Growth, and a Sylvan Bounty. So the fixing is strong with this deck so far. We won't be unhappy to pick up more bounce lands, but building the mana base of this deck will be a challenge, because the more colors you have, the more precise you have to be. But I'm confident that we will make it work. Scute Mob, not really what we want. This whole pack is pretty disappointing, but we get the Nest Invader that we have been looking for, so it's Nest Invaders and Kozilek's Predators for this pack. The only other option is the Blinding Soul Eater, which is pretty good, but doesn't compete with Nest Invader in my book. Yeah, it doesn't really help or ramping into the Skyreach Manta necessarily. I mean, we could have a 4/4 Manta, which is okay, but it's good anyway. So yeah, I'm just going over our late game. Here we have an Agony Warp, a Dimir Aqueduct, another Vengeful Rebirth, a Narcolepsy, and a Rest. And even though Narcolepsy is cheaper, a Rest gets the pick here because of its color. We are already trying to play a decent amount of white, and the Rest is just a better card in general. Here we get an All Suns Dawn, which is very interesting, but we have some other good cards as well. We have another Wayfarer's Bauble, we have an Alloy Mirror, and we have the Whirlheart Phoenix. I don't really like the card that much, but it's very resilient, and we don't have that many creatures yet, so it would be nice to have a creature that could come back from the graveyard. Is it Boilerworks is also obviously a consideration here. Helps us splash the Fairy Mechanist, but right now we only have 5 other artifacts, so I'm not gonna pick worse cards to make another decent card work when we can take a good card and still have a very nice deck. We don't have to have like a basic island in the deck. If we pick up a bouncer of some sort to help play the Skyreach Mantis for 5. But it all depends on the last picks here. So yeah, 2 good rares and mythics, Banefire and Elishnorn. It's always nice to have so powerful cards backing your deck up. So you know that even if you flood out or if your opponent is devastating you, you can bounce back. Here we have the pick between a Burst Lightning, another Fairy Mechanist, a Cathodian and a Nest Invader. Very hard pick. I like Cathodian a lot. He blocks everything, he attacks for a bunch, costs 3 and it's colorless, but yeah, Nest Invader is very good. I can't say that it's straightly better than the Cathodian, but in this deck I think that's true. Here we can take an expedition map, which will help us with the mana a lot. We can also take the Narcolepsy and go more into blue, but we're still short on creatures and the Dragonite is actually very good, so I will take that. Here we can pick a third Nest Invader, which I almost slammed, but when I thought about it, maybe Sphere of the Suns is actually good in this deck. I don't like the card in Limited in general, and well, I don't like it in general, but in this deck, since the color requirements are so high, maybe the first Sphere is better than the third Nest Invader, so we will try that. And the same pick goes here, the Writers is good, but mana fixing is mana fixing, and we don't have that many basics probably, so we will pick the Dimir Aqueduct. Perfect pick here in Etched Oracle, can't think of a better card to have in the deck. Then there's this pack. I decided to go with the Crocodile. The double black is pretty harsh to get to work, but we do have a lot of duels that produces black, and the Crocodile is pretty good, so here we could take another Vengeful Rebirth, but we don't have a problem with spells. So a lesson to be learned from the cube drafts: if you can pick a land and still have 23 good spells, you have an edge over any opponent because you get to play with more picks than your opponent. So I take the Dimir Aqueduct to improve the Sunburst theme over the Vengeful Rebirth because we don't need it. We have enough good spells. Plummet for the sideboard from this pack. So we're almost done with the draft portion. It's time to cut cards. The Changeling was pretty easy. Then it turns into a much harder game. I decided to go with the Bone Splinters. It's one of the cards that could actually kill my bombs, and it's not unreasonable to think that we could play it, but so yeah, I'm reasoning which card to cut. I'm thinking about the Fairy Mechanist, since it's blue and will be hard to cast. But in reality, it won't be that hard to cast, and it will be really good here, I think. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 other artifacts, which gives the Fairy Mechanist a pretty good chance of hitting, making it a pretty good card. So I'm sorting out the lands, separating creatures from non-creatures, the typical stuff. The deck does have a a small weakness, and that's because we do have access to a lot of good removals, but in order to play them, we have to either cut creatures or mana fixing, and mana fixing is kinda the bulk of the deck, so we can't cut that, so we have to cut creatures. So I'm thinking about if we should go 16 or 17 lands, and I'm also thinking about how our colors are spread out, and if there is any card in my sideboard that could potentially be a main deck card. So naturally the Crocodile seems weak because of the double black. The same goes for the Fairy Mechanist, since it's the only blue card. And it's not easy to cut a card here because we have so many good cards. I'm thinking about how our early game is going to turn out, and it appears that between the Sun Lances, the Burst Lightning, the Tribal Flame, and the 2 Nest Invaders, and all the ramps, I guess, Grim Affliction doesn't look very good. In retrospect, it would have been a pretty decent addition. I'm just thinking about the Proliferate in the sense that it can help us add counters to the Sphere of the Suns or an Everflowing Chalice, which we don't have. But of course it does add counters to both Etched Oracle and all the Skyreach Mantas as well, which is something I should have considered during the deck building. So yeah, I'm thinking about if we want another creature or not, since we only have, I think, what is it, 11 plus the Sickle Slicer, yeah, which is not very much, but I think we'll be fine anyway. So after considering the dual lands we have, and check that against our colors, how early do we need it, what kind of split between the basics are we potentially looking at, and so forth. At least one card has to be cut, and after I've cut that card I can decide whether or not to go 17 or 16 lands. And the card I ultimately cut is Grim Affliction, and I'm not certain if that's correct or not. It could very well be like one of the Sun Lances, it could be the Burst Lightning, it could be one of the creatures. I'm not sure if it's correct to cut that card. But as I said, I did not consider the Sunburst counters when I cut the Grim Affliction, and it's pretty likely that it should not have been cut. So what I'm doing now is that I'm sorting by colors and separate all the lands and other ways I have to fix my mana. And after I've done that, I count how many sources we are potentially looking at if we would add one basic land. So right now we would have 7 sources that produces white, which is probably not enough. Just because you also have to take into consideration that once you have cracked the Revolving Wilds for our planes, you don't have another basic plane, and that makes all the other cards that we're right now counting not able to find white. So that's why I add 2 planes, which gave us a total of 8 white sources, which is pretty good. It will be easy to cast the 1 color spells, it will be harder to cast the 2 color spells. Mainly Elishnor, of course. So now I'm looking at blue, doing the same thing. We have 2 bounce lands that produces blue. We also have the Sphere of the Sun, so that's 3 sources, which is plenty. We could potentially add a basic island if we feel that we have room for that. So yeah, so we're counting up the red. I'm adding some basics, mainly 2, and that brings us up to 9 red sources. Since red is our main color, basically, that feels pretty good. I would like another one, but we will see if we can fit that in. So now I'll remove the green fixers because they can't fix their own color. So now I have to count the green fixers without Sylvan, Bounty and Rampant Growth. That brings us up to 7 green sources with 1 basic, and that's certainly not enough, especially since green fixes other colors. For some reason Modo decided to put the basics way out to the right. So yeah, an island snuck in there, I'll remove that. So this gives us 9 green sources, which is pretty good. I think that will be enough. So that leaves us with black as the last color to investigate. So once again I'm doing the same thing with the lands, putting all lands that produce black down here together with the mana fixers that could potentially get black. I'm also counting Sylvan, Bounty and Rampant Growth. And that brings us up to a pretty high number of black already, with only 1 basic. So yeah, black will not be an issue to cast. 1 swamp will be sufficient because we only have one spell that costs single black and 1 that costs double black. And I can't see myself, if I get the option to get a second one of a specific basic, that I will go get swamp instead of plains, for example. And that brings us to 39 cards, and I'm pretty happy with the mana base already. I think it will be good enough, and I'm deciding between if I should add the island or if I should add another mountain. And I go with the mountain, and thinking about it for a while longer, since we don't have any domain cards except the Tribal Flames, I think this is fine. But in the end I decide that the deck is probably strong enough, and it doesn't cost the deck anything to add the island over the 3rd mountain, I don't think. So in the end I decided that cutting a mountain and adding the island would be better. So there you have it, 16 lands, plenty of mana fixers, some sunburst cards, some bombs. Yeah, let's just try the deck out and see if it will work.